Hi, my name is Bianca Pisciola. I'm the COO of Six, and welcome to White Gold's Live Investment Summit. I'd like to start today by introducing our presenters: White Gold CEO David Don DiCaprio, Chief Technical Advisor Shawn Ryan, and Vice President Exploration Terry Grace. To kick things off, Dave will be telling the company story, and then we'll be accepting questions. You can submit your questions in the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Without further ado, take it away, Dave.
Thank you, Bianca, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. I hope everybody is keeping well and managing as best as possible in these unprecedented times. This webinar is a great platform to present our company and the related opportunities. The attendance is amazing, certainly exceeding our expectations with almost 400 people on the line. Very glad to have everyone here today and for the opportunity to share why it is that we are so excited about White Gold Corp. And just to get right into it, White Gold Corp, as the name suggests, is focused in the White Gold district of the Yukon, Canada. It's a relatively new company, having been formed in 2016, but it's the benefactor of over $100 million of work and over 15 years of experience and exploration in the district, which has culminated in some major discoveries, as a lot of you may be aware. But the district actually dates back over 100 years, and that's when really the profile was built. It's an extremely historic area for Canada, and it has been a prolific gold production district since, starting back in that time to current days, where over 20 million ounces of placer gold have been mined out of the creeks and stream beds in the area. Obviously, it all started in the Klondike Gold Rush at the turn of the century, where tens of thousands of prospectors put it all on the line to go seek their fortune, and a lot of them did. And for many, it took a couple decades later for those fortunes to be found, and even until to this day, the lure is irresistible, as we see on the Discovery Network with their show Gold Rush, which I believe is in the 10th season, one of their top performers. And that's exactly what lured our co-founder Shawn Ryan to the district over 15 years ago. The idea that such riches were discovered literally at surface with very mechanical exploration techniques, and there certainly had to be a source or more to it in such a mineralized system. And with no real modern day exploration having been performed, there's such an excellent opportunity to be able to explore in such a prolific district in a great jurisdiction as Canada. Although it didn't happen overnight, through Shawn's tenacity and modern innovative exploration techniques, he was able to prove his thesis and start to unlock the secrets to the source of some of this placer gold, which has led to major hard rock high-grade gold discoveries in recent years and a very exciting modern day gold rush around 2009, 2010, which kicked off with the Underworld Golden Saddle discovery, as I mentioned, and has continued right through to this day. And it is with that vision and oversight that led to the creation of White Gold Corp, and why we are so excited to be here today to give some more detail on why exactly it is we are so excited about what we have and the success we've had in the recent years since we founded the company, and what we are hoping to achieve in this coming season. We are thrilled to have been able to attract the backing of amazing partners, including Agnico Eagle, Kinross, and very recently Eric Sprott. And it is with that, and I will move on to give a little bit more detail on what it is that makes White Gold Corp such a unique gold exploration company with very special prospects. There's basically four reasons why we think White Gold is such a unique company. The first starts with our land package. We currently have over 420,000 hectares, about 1 million acres in the district, representing 40% of the claims. However, as I mentioned, Shawn Ryan's been prospecting and evaluating these claims along with other companies for over 15 years, and what this package represents is actually over 80% of the targets. And this is what underlies the true unique opportunity in this company, is that we control this emerging prolific district with our land package, and we really view this opportunity similar to, say, owning 80% of the targets in the Timmins camp 50 or 60 years ago, or in parts of Quebec or the Nevada goldfields. And that opportunity for us was so unique that we could not resist getting involved. And I think that uniqueness is what led to some of our other partners wanting to join us as we embark on unlocking more and more of the sources of this placer gold in the district. So just to take a step back, how did this all come together? I mentioned how Shawn has been doing his work there and had all these claims optioned to a number of different juniors. Well, in 2011 and 12, when the junior mining market was in a downturn, these companies were not able to meet their obligations, and Shawn got all these properties back. Based on the success that he had with Underworld and Kaminak and the additional work that had been done, Shawn was actually more confident than ever in the prospectivity of this package, and very enthused to continue deploying his exploration techniques in this area, which started with some very novel approach, leveraging soil geochemistry, based on the fact that this area, believe it or not, had never been glaciated. Shawn was able to find some unique correlation between pathfinder elements in the soils and the bedrock below, and I'll let the guys kind of get into more on that. But essentially, Shawn, going forward, really wanted to be able to control the methodologies and the approach to this package and keep it all sort of within the same entity to be able to do so. And he had put together a vision as to what it would take to at least perform a preliminary pass to deploy these modern novel exploration techniques. And his vision was a 3-year work program which would cost about $15 million. And he brought that idea and vision to us at the Power One Group in Toronto, a boutique merchant bank here, been very active in the mineral exploration sector, and fortunate enough to have been associated with some very high profile discoveries in that time, and we had known Shawn from working with him in the past. And when presented with the opportunity to control such an underexplored prolific district in Canada, we were immediately enthused and really wanted to partner with him on that. And fully appreciating the uniqueness of the opportunity, we proposed to Shawn that major mining companies would also be very interested, and he was obviously open to that. And we took the opportunity to a number of the other majors that we had good working relationships with, and not surprising, they were all very interested. And from that group, we selected Agnico Eagle to be our partner. They have such great expertise and track record of working in northern climates, and they're so strong from an exploration perspective. They really did seem to be the ideal partner at that time. And fast forward to today, they have absolutely been a great partner, supporting us in a number of our initiatives, both technically and obviously financially, right from day one. Shortly after establishing our partnership with Agnico at the end of 2016, we approached Kinross, who had acquired Underworld Resources and now owned the Golden Saddle deposit, which was about 1 million ounces at that time, and the JP Ross property. And we proposed to them that through the combination of our properties in the district, we could cement White Gold's position as the dominant exploration company in that district of the Yukon, with their deposit and highly prospective targets on the JP Ross property, in addition to our prospective land package, which Shawn had accumulated over the previous several years. And essentially, we had also at that point in time compiled the team which was directly involved with the underworld discovery and all the other major land packet discoveries in that district. And this is another point, and probably the most important point, as to what really differentiates White Gold is the people. With really having the most experienced people in the district, Kinross certainly saw the opportunity. They were big fans of the prospectivity of the properties they own and the balance of the district, and agreed to also become our partners through a transaction whereby Kinross rolled their properties into White Gold in exchange for a 19.9% interest, the same as Agnico had, with the vision to continue to unlock the sources of this placer gold in the district. And from my perspective, this is fundamentally, between those three components, what really makes White Gold such a special company. So not only do we have the backings of Agnico and Kinross, and having recently added Eric Sprott, who was interested for all these regions I touched upon, we now had a defined resource of 1 million ounces, which in the last 2 years we've grown over to 1.5 million ounces, prior to some other acquisitions in the district further increasing the ounces. We had this extensive regional portfolio with multiple recent discoveries, which we'll get into, further validating the methodologies, starting with Shawn's drone to drills program, and now being validated through the diamond drill. And it's really sort of all come together as this prolific district, which has continued to show more and more success as the time is spent. And with each bit of success, it really increases our confidence in the opportunity that lies in the balance of our property package of over 30 properties and some of the prospectivity of these new targets. As things stand today, we've now had 3 years of work under our belt, and I'm extremely pleased to be able to state that the company has been very successful on all of its objectives. And so what does that mean? For White Gold, success comes in a few different ways, and that's based off of our three-pronged approach to creating value within our property package. And all that work is being planned for the eventual goal of being able to optimize the value of these projects to a certain point where the shareholders of White Gold can be rewarded without having to take on excessive dilution to further advance these projects. So effectively, White Gold is looking to advance the properties within its portfolio to a certain point, and then look to monetize those assets in whatever form makes most sense, be it a straight acquisition to one of our partners, or a joint venture, or a spin out. There's a lot of opportunities, and the more work we're doing, we're being very fortunate to really sort of bring a number of these properties up into the pipeline. And what does that pipeline look like? Basically, we have 3 categories of assets, as I'll put it. The first is our more advanced asset, which is the Golden Saddle deposit. As I mentioned, we acquired that from Kinross. It was about 1 million ounces at that time. Over the last few years, we've been able to increase the size of that deposit by about 50%, which has been a great return for the time and capital expended on that. Early in 2019, we acquired another one of Shawn's early discoveries, from Comstock, which is the VG deposit. That's just 10 kilometers north of the Golden Saddle, and combined with the Golden Saddle and ARC deposits, our total ounces is just under 1.8 million. And in terms of advancing and growing these resources, our job as White Gold is not to perform detailed type delineation. We really want to be able to get the most bang for our buck, and what our work programs have been focused on is finding new satellite deposits within a 3 or 4 kilometer radius from this, which can be used and identified as additional ounces to be added to that project. And that's, as I mentioned, come along really well, being able to grow that deposit by 50% in such a short period of time. The next bucket is advancing our recent discoveries, and these are projects which were very early stage, have gone through this proprietary protocol, starting with the drones, the soil, the GT probe, the RAB drilling, which the guys will get into why that is such an effective and efficient exploration approach in this district. And in that bucket now, we have 4 very exciting projects. This is the other area where we've really demonstrated the effectiveness of the approach and led to some significant success with 4 brand new discoveries in our district. There was the Golden Saddle West and the Ryan Surprise, which are along strike with the Golden Saddle deposit. The Golden Saddle West 750 meters to the west, and the Ryan Surprise 2 kilometers. Having hit some very high grade shallow mineralization on both. There was the Vertigo discovery in 2019, which identified multiple high grade structures, very interesting structural setting there, which we've done a lot of interpretive work actually over the winter season, and we are very enthused to follow that up this year. And then right at the end of last season, there was the Titan discovery, which returned 72 grams per ton over 6 meters from a very shallow depth, and represents probably one of the best drill holes in the Yukon to date. In addition to that, we've had our Betty discovery, which ties on to Newmont's Coffee project, and this bucket is sort of some of the most highly prospective targets which we have identified some strong prospectivity, and there will be a significant amount of focus this year, in addition to some of our other work to look to really be able to demonstrate the value prospectivity. And the third bucket is earlier stage programs where we work up some of these new projects, and with the goal of becoming a new discovery and looking to work it through that system. And one thing which is actually just on the slide before in terms of the timeline that covered some of the earlier stuff which I spoke to earlier, was a very significant development for our district when in 2017 the territorial and federal government announced their Resource Gateway project, in which they would be investing $360 million to upgrade roads in the district, specifically to enhance mining activities. And this was in addition to other significant infrastructure type developments. As I mentioned and sort of keep alluding to, it is such a privilege to be able to operate in a district that is so supportive of our initiatives. And these roads will obviously greatly affect the economics of operating, but what it really does for us, a lot of this road package actually comes right through our portfolio, and with road access through our portfolio, that just totally unlocks a lot of the value. Now in some of these areas, you don't need to find 1 million ounces to make it economic. Once there's mills in the district, you find 200,000-300,000 ounces, that's a pit you can mine and truck to any one of these mines, which will hopefully be established by then. And it really sort of changes the dynamic and the opportunity for everyone in the district, but particularly for us. We are very appreciative and enthused for that continued support. So moving on from here, I'll just kind of touch on a little bit more on the pipeline and then pass it on to the rest of the team to get into some more details on what we have coming up here in 2020. I just wanted to touch briefly on our capital structure, as I think this also helps highlight the uniqueness of White Gold. Agnico and Kinross are our major shareholders, both owning approximately 17.1%. And as I mentioned, Eric Sprott is now a shareholder along with a number of strategic institutions. The other thing I just wanted to touch on is management and insiders position, which is owning a little over 22% of the company. And why, as shareholders, I think this is important to realize that the management is very much aligned with the other shareholders, and the goal is to show success through equity value appreciation, and that has been the situation with the establishment of this company right from the get-go, and the goal of management. And another thing that we're very fortunate to be able to discuss is the support of a number of excellent financial institutions, which has provided us financial resources as well as some excellent research coverage, which I think, again, this is a very busy story, really kind of helps to articulate the value that lies within White Gold, and these targets are significantly higher than our current trading price, which I believe is very much achievable as we continue to work on our properties. This slide here was prepared to help visualize the three tranches of activities which we have undergone in each of the past 3 seasons, and we will continue to advance this year. It gives a little bit of a sense of the size of the land package, and you see the proposed roadway coming through. Actually, the road exists as plaster roads right now, but will be upgraded to paved haul roads. And this, along with a lot of other material, is on our websites, additional videos speaking specifically to some of the different properties and discoveries, and we will certainly be creating more materials to really help articulate some details. There's a lot going on. It's a little bit of a mixed blessing, and why we really appreciate the opportunity to leverage these types of platforms to spend the time with interested parties to really get to understand more about our company. And I hope I was able to do that and give you a bit more context on to why I think this company is so unique, and why at this point in time it's just very undervalued on every metric as I see it. Ounces in the ground, recent discoveries, land package, partners, and we're fortunate there's been some very well written institutional coverage out there that also shares those views, and we are just thrilled to be able to continue to work through these times, and look very forward to the commencement of our exploration season in the coming weeks, where we really have some very, very exciting projects that we'll be working on, and very keen to follow up on some of the exceptional results that we had last year. So again, thank you so much, everyone, and I will turn it over to Terry and Shawn to get into some more details of what we will be up to in the 2020 season. Thank you.
Thanks, David. I'm going to start off briefly talking about our existing mineral resources at the Golden Saddle and Arc deposits, which forms our flagship project. Just to provide a little background, these deposits were originally discovered by Underworld Resources in 2008, which was acquired by Kinross Gold in 2010. Then in early 2017, White Gold acquired the project from Kinross. As you can see, the Golden Saddle and Arc deposits form two near-surface mineralized zones which are amenable to open pit mining with a small underground resource component at the Golden Saddle. Mid last year, we released an updated mineral resource which saw a 25% increase in resources compared to the previous 2018 estimate. Currently, we're sitting at just over 1 million ounces in the indicated category, grading 2.26 grams per ton gold, and just over 500,000 ounces of inferred at 1.48 grams per ton gold. So we consider this to be a strong resource base from which to build going forward. The VG deposit is located on the QV property, which was a strategic acquisition from Comstock Metals in Q1 last year. The VG is located about 11 kilometers north of the Golden Saddle, and it shows similar geology and gold mineralization. In 2014, Comstock released a resource estimate of 230,000 ounces, grading 1.65 grams per ton gold, and that's all in the inferred category. Again, the deposit is situated near surface and is amenable to open pit mining. It remains open along strike and down dip, and so it has room for expansion, and the property in general remains very much underexplored. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the planned exploration work for this year, starting with the Ryan Surprise target, which is located only 2 kilometers west of the Golden Saddle deposit. As you can see inside the blue rectangle, the target area is associated with a significant 800-meter-long golden soil anomaly with values up to about 1.5 grams per ton gold. This is a plan view of the Ryan's target. If you look closely, you can see that all the drilling prior to 2019 was directed to the south, based on an interpreted steep northerly dip. Last year, we reviewed the data and came up with a new interpretation which indicated a steep southerly dip. The 2 diamond drill holes completed last year both intersected gold mineralization, with hole 12 returning multiple mineralized zones. The table in the lower right corner shows drilling highlights from 2018 RC drilling and last year's diamond drilling, which included 20.64 grams per ton gold over 6.1 meters in RC hole 1 and 3.55 grams per ton over 8.4 meters in diamond drill hole 12. So this year we're planning to carry out 1,500 meters of diamond drilling in 5 to 6 holes, shown here in the figure by the yellow circles. And those holes are going to test the strike and down dip extensions of the Ryan's mineralization. This is a vertical cross-section of Ryan showing the current interpretation of a steep 70-degree southerly dip. As you can see, the main zone is open along strike as well as down dip, indicated by the red arrows. Diamond drill hole 12 also encountered 2 possibly subparallel zones above the main zone. A zone in the hanging wall graded 2.66 grams per ton gold over 11 meters, and another zone just above the main zone returned 4.85 grams per ton gold over 4.14 meters. We're excited about the Ryan's target given its close proximity to the Golden Saddle and Arc resources and its ability to positively impact the economics of the overall project. So now I'm going to hand things over to Shawn to talk about the Titan target and our plans for the 2020 Regional Exploration Program.
Thank you, Terry. This next part of the talk, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of touch base on some of the targets we're planning to do some extra work on this summer to get it prepared for next year's trenching and rab drilling, and some of the targets are diamond drilling. So part of the talk, I'll talk about the 60 mile, and this is this target right here just west of Dawson with a couple of good targets. Hart found right at this corner, and the Nolan up at the north. I'll talk to you guys about the Bonanza claim block that we're just starting to work, which is just outside of Dawson City on famous Bonanza Creek. I'll talk a little bit about the Titan and what I think is going to probably happening and going on in there, and it's right within our JP Ross area. And then I'll finish up with the Betty, and this is one of the targets that's on strike with the Newmont project that everybody was really interested in a few years back. Here we have the Titan project that's located in the central part of our claim block. Here's Dawson City. And the Titan is basically on the western side of this JP Ross project that we've been working for the last couple of years. Here's the Vertigo that we were drilling last year. So the Titan's right here, just off the North Henderson Creek. Here we are a little bit closer up, and this is the ground mag, and so you can still see this round feature, but what you'd see is these distinct magnetic high bodies. And that's kind of what we drilled last year. This is where the drill holes were. And it was this one right in here, furthest in on the magnetic feature, that we tapped out, and we hit this 22 meters at 20 grams. Here's bismuth, just showing you again the relationship. And what's kind of interesting is we're seeing the gold kind of going in a northeast direction, and we get this gold in a north and northwest direction, like this trend. So something's kind of going on in here, and this all represents high probability targets, like at least these magnetic features and this trend. Here we have copper, and again, you can see how it's like basically filling in this round area, and it's showing you this nice northeast trend. So these are, like, again, the high quality targets. And it actually has a little bit of uranium, as you see, and it's not very much uranium, so, but with the low detections we could actually tell there's, so this is kind of giving us an indication of that it's probably intrusion fluids. So we're still not sure, like, again, like I said, it's probably a skarn that we're seeing, but is it part of a bigger porphyry system? That's what remains to be tested here. So when we went and looked at the actual system, this is our Candig trench. This is where we got the soil of 100,000 ppb. When we fired assayed it, it was 113 grams. So really it was free gold that was found in the soil. This is where it's coming from. It's this massive magnetite layer. And you can see this rock. This is massive magnetite. And so you can see the same color. So that's just the rocks that got broken down. And we had these rocks pulling out with some magnetite and some visible gold and some nice samples up to almost 500 grams. So it's very high grade nature here. This was the hole that we drilled, and this is the one that got everybody kind of going. What is its true value? So the interesting part about this hole, it's a RAB hole. So RAB means it's a rotary air blast hole, which is an open hole. We're just chipping out the inside. And there is a possibility of cross-contamination. So this is what the geologist kind of got a little bit, the red flags went off. Is this just truly 6 meters of 72 grams? And is this kind of caused by, because when we drill through the high grade, we're pulling the samples back up the hole across through the high grade. So is it picking up some of the specks of gold as it goes by? We've done some tests before, and we've never seen that. We see little tails. If you go through a super high grade section, you may get a 5 or 10 foot tail. So that's like 3 meters, but not 30 to 40 meters. So this is what we're trying to figure out. This is what they announced, 72 grams over 6 meters. But if we look at the intersection, this is where this yellow band here, these numbers here represent basically 20 grams over 20 meters. And if we bring it down to here, it's 33 meters of 14 grams. And if we brought it all the way down to here, that would be the 60 meter mark that I'm going to show you here a little bit more on. This would be 48 meters, just under 10 grams. So it's a significant hit. But I'll show you this 60 meter mark and what it represents in the geophysics side. The background is magnetic susceptibility. That is actually the magnetic model from our geophysical survey when we inverse it. So this is telling you that it's in magnetite ore pretty well the whole length. This is the magnetic inversion again, looking at it. And so here again, what I wanted to point out is this is the size. Here's the magnetite body. But what you're seeing is you can see how she's drifting down underground. And this is what we're looking at is we can see that we get magnetite all the way down to, when you're looking at this long section, down to the 200 meter mark. We don't know if it has ore, but you can see how the hole basically is mimicking the magnetite body. But you can see here's a long section, which means this is a line looking straight up and down instead of a cross section. And what you can see is, you can see the depth. It kind of looks like a root canal on a tooth. And you can see how far it goes down. And you can see that we're down to ore all the way to the bottom here, So, this still might continue to be low grade. So that's what we got to figure out here is drill more holes and actually understand the system. But magnetite, you could actually see quite nicely with the geophysics. On this slide, you could actually see again, here's our magnetic inversion on this side, on the left-hand side. But what I wanted to show is on the right-hand side, this is resistivity. This is another geophysical survey. And what you can see is this resistivity low here. That's a very distinct feature, and that's probably a distinct rock unit itself. And then you have another science, like it's with IP. This is resistivity and chargeability, which charges the particles of metal, of iron, or potential magnetite. And you can see this nice chargeability anomaly that we're getting correlate. And again, this is the 60 meter mark, the red arrow. So you can see there's a very distinct geological unit here. And that's what I'm trying to get at with this kind of showing these different sciences, that there is something backing up this model, that we're seeing something very distinct down to the 60 meter mark. And on this slide, I just wanted to show it's copper, because we're getting a nice copper gold correlation. So this was the copper from the RAB hole, and you can see how it's holding quite nicely with the magnetic inversion. And then we go look at the resistivity. There's our 60 meter mark. You can see how that copper held right to the edge, right to the contact of this resistivity high-low unit. And again, it's correlating quite nicely with the chargeability. So that's what we're seeing here, is a correlation of three different sciences of geophysics, from chargeability, resistivity, to magnetic susceptibility, that they're actually all matching and kind of confirming that there's a high probability that there's a gold-bearing unit right at least to the 60 meter mark, and I believe it goes a little bit deeper than that. And here we are, there's the Titan again, looking down on it. And the idea is that the yellow, basically dots, are going to be where we're planning to diamond drill. That won't be until probably the third week of August. But what we're thinking of doing is coming in and RAB drilling these guys here, these magnetic bodies, in the third week of June. And we're probably going to put one RC hole just to cut across here, just so we get three styles, RAB, RC, and diamond drill from a geological point of view. But the idea is that the earlier RAB drilling in June, we should have our data by the middle of July. And that'll get us the data that we needed in case we want to poke another diamond drill hole, in case these guys turn out to be a winner. Then the idea is that if we're only coming here in the middle of third week of August, we have time to prepare for another couple of holes if we need to. So now I just want to talk briefly, again, same area. Here's the Titan that we're talking about. This is the Vertigo. And just to show you the Vertigo, to set up the scene for what we're trying to do here this summer in exploration. So the Vertigo, last year we drilled in 2018 we had some spectacular hits. So basically we drilled 3 fences of diamond drill holes, 125 meters apart, in stations every 100 meters, and with 2 holes. And they wanted to get an idea because we knew the vein system was cutting across. So this is what I just wanted to show you, is the nature of the high grade. We were getting like stuff like 0.7 meters at 36 grams. 53, okay, there's a big arm, that's 53 meters of 0.8. But here's a big number, 0.3 of 94. There's 0.4 of 141 grams. So a meter of 32. So you can kind of see where these all are. They're scattered across. So that's what we ended up figuring out here, ends up being, it's like from 1.5 meters, to basically, under a meter to up to 2 to 3 meters wide, super high grade, with the footwall and hanging wall running a little bit. So, but they were very, very high grade. So the idea is now is to figure out where all these fluids are coming from. This is just to show the gold background with gold points on the Vertigo. And you can see our diamond drill fences going on here. And you can see these are some of our RAB holes from historic. But what I'm trying to show here is what you can kind of see is this northeast trend. Like we've been drilling off this kind of off of east-west trend. But what we're realizing is that there is a northeast component to this. And here is arsenic. And so points, soil points on top, but arsenic background. And what you're seeing here is you get this northeast trend. Here's another northeast trend. And then you get this basically off of east-west like we're seeing with the gold. So these are splays. So this is what we're trying to figure out now this summer because we've been drilling in this direction. Is there, when we go back to look at the gold here, is this area in here basically, is there fluids moving in this direction? So this is what we're going to try to test out with this trenching, deeper trenching. It's kind of these contacts here, and look at how it just drops down here. So we're going to have to look at over here too, because I believe this is an intense zone and there's some high grade stuff in here. So there must be something going on. This was a really cool map just done by Matias Sanchez here from Fault Rocks. And he took our magnetic data and our LiDAR data and drew up this structural map of sequences of cracks and structures. And it really kind of pulled everything together. Here's our Vertigo, here's our Titan, there's our Sabotage and Stage Fright, the North Frenzy, and the X-Men. But look what it just did. Is it kind of pulled these things together, at least this package over here, so that the Titan and the X-Men may be related in a sense. Like this is over 25 kilometers apart here. But the idea is that these are big northeast structures with east-west cross-cutting structures. And that's basically what formed this big soil anomaly. And hence would form the placer gold in Henderson Creek. Here's a little bit closer, and you can see the nice relationship. Here's the stage fright on this side. And as soon as you jump across the structure, this is the sabotage. And you can see how this mineralization is hanging. And then here's our North Frenzy. And you can even see how these gold anomalies are sitting off on this east-west. So that's kind of what this ended up being. It's, it's a long-lived structural system with multiple pulses of mineralization. And that's why sometimes we have some with, with silver and bismuth and lead, and others with just gold only, because they're different events. This is our next big thing, is these trenching. We've been using can digs for most of our career here. Last year we brought in a big 220 hoe, went down 6 to 8 feet, and that's when we started getting into nice bedrock, because a can dig would only get us to about this layer. So, get us down, but not right into the bedrock. So now we're able to actually get some nice strike and dips and actually see the mineralization and understand it that much better. And that's going to be one of our big programs this summer, is because we have a lot of road accessible targets. So we're going to use probably a 10-ton hole to move around here and dig some nice trenches. Here's the Frenzy. So we're just up from, here's the Vertigo on this slide, on the left-hand slide, and this Sabotage, Stage Fright, Frenzy zone. So what I was just trying to show is, here's the road system. The roads are cutting through most of our targets. So the idea is we're within a couple of 100 meters of a lot of these good targets from the road. So we drilled some last year. There's the Stage Fright over here, and you can see we had 16 meters at 2.3 grams, almost 8 meters at 3.5 grams over, no, that was, yep. So that would have been, 7 meters of 3.5 grams. So you can see here's a lifeboat, 3 meters of 5. There's almost 4.5 of 5. So the idea is we're going to go in and trench these and then come up with some good numbers. And then we've got about 7 or 8 rab holes that we could actually use on this property this summer. So the idea is we'll finish off with it in August, following up on the trenching. And the idea is to set this up for next year's diamond drill program for a more aggressive. Here's really quickly on the Bonanza. Here's the prod package, the inset map. The Bonanza is right up by Dawson City. It's literally like 10 minutes from the coffee shop. So Dawson's just off the map here. This is the famous Bonanza Creek that produced 6 million ounces of placer. And this is ground zero right here where the discovery happened. And this is Klondike Gold's package. And you can see where some of their showings are sitting up in the hill. So every gold structure, if you have 6 million ounces, structure, structure, structure. is the primary thing. And look at the GSC mag showed in the early 2000s. It showed a primary magnetic structure ripping through, coming from here. And we actually added one more piece of science called gravity, which is a density map of the Earth's rocks. We had this big gravity low, which could be an intrusive at depth, which possibly could be producing the fluids that caused this 6 million ounces. When we look at it from top down now, what we see is here's the gravity anomaly sitting down here. Here's the showings. So the Lone Star is kind of on these north-south, so you can just see the mag feature. And you can see how these guys are all sitting off on the edge of this magnetic lineament. And this magnetic lineament pulls up and goes straight up through the claim block. So the idea is that here's another view. So here's just the mag. So you could see that aureole is sitting down in here, but this crack. And that's what I'm getting at. If this is ground zero, that was the richest spot in the entire creek, well, I don't think that's just coincidence. So the probability that there's high angle structures ripping up on the Bonanza project is pretty high. And the point is it's never really been drilled. So this is what we're getting ready to drill for trenching and rab drilling next year, 2021, with the intent to poke the first diamond drill holes in probably 2022. The next target I'm going to talk about is up in the 60 mile, and so I'll blow this up. And so here's Dawson. This is its own little 60 mile system. It's got its own kind of placer area, so it's found in the Miller Creek, and it was a well-known at the turn of the century also. So you get to it by all-weather road. This is with the road system. So, and then you come down into the creek system. So access is pretty easy. This is the big thing. This is the mag map. It's a big property. We have many targets from the Nolan to the Boucher to the Hart to the 9 mile stuff. So the big thing that you can see here is this river system. This is the 60 mile. And the GSC mapped out eventually this Pika fault system that moves right up through here. So, but you can see it here on the EM. Again, you can see how that cracked. And lo and behold, we started getting some nice big gold anomalies right along it. So this is basically the target system that we're going to slowly move ahead. We did have drilled this in the past with rad drill on the top 20 to 30 meters. It was anomalous. So again, we're going to reevaluate that. But the idea is to get these things ground geophysics and some of this detailed stuff down in here, which I'll show you on the next page. So here is the Mount Hart target, and this is like over 4 kilometers. This is 2 kilometers wide. So you can see a nice intense soil anomaly, and this is starting to remind us of the JP Ross system because we have different elements. Like some places it's gold only, and some we have silver and lead and arsenic. And you can see the Nolan here. There's 500,000 ounces of placer coming off of this stretch, and right on this crack is this big 2 kilometer plus Nolan anomaly, and these guys sitting here. So we're going to go and advance these guys, and then with the intent to basically, if we're not trenching this year, we're going to be trenching and rad drilling a bunch of these targets next year. And the last target I'm going to talk to you about is this, is what everybody likes, is the Betty. So it's way down in our southern part of our block. I was just showing you the 60 mile here. So now we're way down past the White. Here's the Coffee Project. Here's Casino. And here's this famous Betty project that, everybody was talking about 3 years ago because it was on strike with the Gold Corp and now Newmont. So, are we an elephant country? Here's the VG, 230,000 ounces. The White, 1.5. The Coffee with 2.17 with another 2 million in the sulfides at depth. Here's our famous Casino with 8 million ounces outlined in low grade. And here we are basically. And this was our 2018 hit, a little over a gram of 50 meters. So, we're just getting into it. This is the mag map. I like to give everybody some context. So here's the coffee project, and you can see how this mag comes in. Here's the Coffee Creek Fault coming along here, and it's all happy. And as soon as you get into a disruptive, busting up, basically cross-cutting structures, there's the sugar soil anomaly. Boom. So then you keep coming down, happy, happy, happy. Boom, we get into another disruption. Well, lo and behold, there's the casino. So then we continue on, and ding, 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 ding. And then all of a sudden, boom, we get to this big Dip Creek Fault. That's a fundamental structure blowing up right up through the Coffee Creek Fault. And boom, we get this other basically hits of soil anomalies and mineralization. So these are quite, you could see how you could follow these things along. And so it makes sense what we're seeing here. This was just showing you the detailed airborne. And you can see this is one of the areas we're covering. And I'm just showing you this because the idea is you can see how complex that is. You know, it looked like it was nice and smooth. Once you get into deeper, you can see how she's cross-cutting structures. And that's what you kind of want. And this is the frequency EM, kind of the EM part. But what you're seeing here is it's able to map out. And this is more geology. And there's the Coffee Creek Fault. And here's the granite system. So that's giving us clues, and this is where we're planning to do our summer work. Like in the greens are detailed soils, and the reds are going to be this ground mag VLF. And here I just wanted to show some of the numbers, you know, from the previous drilling, so that just to give you an idea. Like the 2012 drilling, mostly centered on this campaign area, and the idea was, you know, they had some nice numbers: 42 meters at 2.5 grams, and 3 meters of 29 gram material, and 22 meters of 1.3. But what was kind of going on here is they weren't 100% sure of what was kind of going on, because we were on 50-meter soil spacings. So the idea is that we're going to go in and detail the soils in here and get this ground mag VLF, which we now know helps us quite a bit in understanding the structure, and then reevaluate these targets. So we know there's lots of smoke. And this is where some of our holes came from last year, or from 2 years ago, with the 50 meters of 1 gram material. And you can see it was in this kind of a target. So this is in the granite, and this is outside of the granite. So, and here's the Coffee Creek Fault. So they're different styles, but this should give us some good clues. And the idea is that we're going to set this up for diamond drilling for next year. So it should be a good year. So now I'm going to pass on the last slide to Terry, and he could talk to you about the finances, or how we're breaking down the exploration kind of dollars.
Thanks, Shawn. I'm going to finish with a brief summary of the 2020 exploration budget, which totals 4 million Canadian dollars. This represents a significant reduction compared to last year's $13 million program, but we feel it represents a balanced and responsible approach in light of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Here you can see the approximate split between the JP Ross, White Gold, and Hen properties, as well as our regional exploration program. We have 3,000 meters of diamond drilling planned on 2 promising targets at the Ryan Surprise and Titan, so we're expecting exciting news to flow from that drilling later this summer. We have 23 RAB holes budgeted on multiple targets, and we have a very healthy $1.4 million budgeted for the regional exploration work on high priority targets like the Betty, Nolan, and Bonanza projects. We're confident that this work will lead to the generation of new targets, which will set us up nicely for an aggressive exploration program next season.
Great. So let's take some of these questions. Let's start off with Kevin. He asks, how will you mitigate the effects of COVID-19? Will COVID influence your program this year?
I'll take that. So COVID has had an influence on our program this year. Fortunately, the Yukon has deemed mineral exploration as an essential service, so we're cleared to do the work to work and fully permitted to do so. What you'll sort of notice is the program this year is scaled back from what we've done in previous years, and one is to be able to sort of manage the size of the different exploration camps. You know, should there be an issue with a smaller camp, you could sort of have a better opportunity to leave one project, move on to the other. We're very fortunate that we have tons of properties and exciting targets that we can work on, so we can rotate for that. So has it had an impact? But I think what we have proposed here for our 2020 exploration program, although it's a little bit smaller, has the opportunity to have a huge impact for us as a company still.
Great. This one I'll throw to Terry. Titan looks new and different and potentially larger than many other early stage targets you have on the property. It might even be a porphyry with structurally hosted gold. What attracted you to this target in particular, and what do you expect from its exploration this year?
Well, again, I'm relatively new to the company, but I think, initially it was soil sampling, again, to go back to Shawn's, proven or one of the best methods for exploring in the Yukon. It's a unique target in some ways. I mean, we think it's definitely, it has the look of a porphyry, as well as some skarn. Possibly the massive magnetite associated with gold is a bit odd. But anyway, there's two trends really that we're going to be following there. One which trends to the northwest to north and extends from that high grade intersection we had last year in the Rab Hole. And then there's another separate trend going off to the northeast. So again, we're going to really tackle it, I guess, from two different standpoints. We're gonna diamond drill on that north to northwest trend. We've already had good results, high grade gold results in the Rab Hole. So we'll follow that zone with the diamond drill. And then we're going to use the Rab drill basically to test some similar magnetic highs that we see elsewhere within that circular magnetic feature and the northeast gold trend. So, we may diamond drill some of those. If we get good Rab results this year on some of those, we may do some diamond drilling on those. So it's a combination really of diamond drilling and Rab drilling this year.
And I'll just jump in quickly here on that, if I might. The Titan is actually the perfect case study for what White Gold was set up to do. This was a property that had next to no exploration done on it. The soil sampling was there. It sort of gave us enough of a view to continue. We did the probing. We saw occurrences of gold there. Actually, the Titan had some of the highest grades we've seen in the Yukon between the soil sampling and the other surface samples. The next phase with the Rab drill came in and showed that there was material in the ground, some more ultra high grade stuff, and now here we are following up with the diamond drills, and it's unfolding sort of exactly as we could have hoped, and it proves our process. And based on sort of the success we've started to have in the process on this target from other targets, it's actually making us sort of even more optimistic on some of these other targets. Every time we learn something new about the different targets in the system, it kind of opens up different perspectives on some of our other targets across the portfolio.
Another question here. Has work commenced on Resource Gateway project?
The work has commenced. It's definitely a huge advancement in the district. I was actually wanting to touch on that earlier before I got cut off. But and that's another thing I think in terms of being in a jurisdiction where you have a government provincially, federally, and local partners that are investing hundreds of millions of dollars literally to support mining. You couldn't ask to have a better situation. So the process has started. And it's underway. So we're very excited about that advancement and what it does for us, as particularly as a company. This road from Dawson down to the Coffee Project cuts right through our portfolio, and it just unlocks even further the opportunities. Because now if you can have a small pod of a few 100,000 ounces, when there's mills in the area, that's very economical ore you can pit and truck to these different mills. So it's really a huge game changer for us, and we're very excited about it.
Great. Question here coming from Randy Harris. He says, how would you respond to criticism from several sources that you are not progressing with any urgency, and that it might be many years before you come up with anything resembling a PEA by which investors can make an intelligent evaluation of what the true value of this company is? What are your comments?
Yeah, I don't think, I think we've probably been one of the most aggressive exploration companies in Canada. We do have a lot going on, and then we sort of balance our approach between, what I view as three different verticals. We have our advanced stage projects, which are our resources, intermediate stage, which are our discoveries we're following up, and our new sort of grassroots blue sky targets we're working on. Our company, we're built to be an exploration company. We're looking to sort of find the low-hanging fruit, value add opportunities. Not necessarily delineate these assets, sort of a small step out drilling. Right now, our focus in the last couple of years and this year has been to find occurrences of near surface gold within the relatively short proximity of the Golden Saddle in the Arc, and the GS West is a perfect example of success in that regard, as is the Ryan Surprise, which we're following up. And we think, as a company, we will create a lot more value by looking to sort of find these new occurrences of gold in that radius around our existing deposit, as opposed to just sort of looking to further delineate the actual core of the deposit itself. And then when the time is right, we will look to optimize the value there and what makes most sense for the shareholders of the company. And that's another thing that's very unique about White Gold. Management, insiders, and our founders are very significant shareholders, so we're very, very aligned with the shareholder group.
Great. Peter Adamek says, as you have over approximately 40% of the district and you kicked off the multi-year exploration program to kiss all the frogs in 2017 to identify the most prospective projects and the lowest hanging fruit, at what point do you expect to complete the kissing of all the frogs and start to prioritize targets?
That's a great question. And it's the plan has changed a little bit. Once we did roll in the White property from Kinross, which also included the JP Ross, that significantly increased the size of our package from 300,000 hectares to 400,000 hectares, which rolled in a lot more frogs. So the program sort of shifted from a 3-year program to a 4 or 5-year program. I would say we're definitely 2 years in there. We've had some great success, and the nature is the more as we kiss some of these frogs, we're also finding new frogs. So I do believe we have a pipeline here for discovery opportunity for decades to come, and that's really the vision here with White Gold. We think we have a generational asset. We're just scratching the surface. Like Shawn says, he's exploring with a tulip planter. We haven't anywhere gone deep drilling yet, like they would in these other more mature mining districts like Timmins or Val-d'Or and anywhere else. So there's a lot more to come for sure.
Great. Another question here. I'm starting with a comment. Peter Adamek says, thank you for putting this webinar on. Shawn, your video updates are top notch. Please don't ever stop doing these. One question. You recently announced a $6 million raise, but your 2020 exploration budget is $4 million. Can you please explain your thinking on the right size exploration program given the current size of your treasury? Also, is there an opportunity to expand the exploration in 2020 based on success, or is it more or less set given the lead time and shorter outdoor exploration season?
Yeah, so that's a very good question and observation, and there's a method for that. So the $4 million is our set preliminary exploration plan. Should there be success, hopefully there's success, it gives us an opportunity to have the capital available to follow on, if and when it's ready. I think our treasury is in a very healthy position to be able to accommodate that as well. Obviously, this financing, which was $6 million, and brought in the participation of Sprott as a new shareholder. It was flow through financing, so all of that is going to be going into the ground. Majority of it this year, and if for whatever reason the season slows down, or we opt to change that capital is available to pull up in the following season as well. But yeah, there's definitely we're hoping that we're successful and be able to do follow-on work, and the potential for that is available this season now.
Great. Can you tell us about the summer 2020 exploration program? Which targets are you going to drill first? And can you go into some detail about the drilling and the size of the programs?
I guess I'll answer that. I mean, the RAB drilling, we've budgeted about 25 RAB holes. That'll be on 3 properties, the White, the JPR, and the Hen, which host the Titan. So those will be kind of midsummer. The diamond drilling is going to be a little bit later on in the season. And again, that's partly a function of timing, but we're trying to keep our camp sizes down with the COVID-19 restrictions, and it just seems to make sense to do it in that sequence. So basically, RAB drilling earlier, diamond drilling. We budgeted about 3,000 meters of diamond drilling, again, on those two projects, Ryan Surprise and the Titan. So we're optimistic that we're going to get some really good results, and of course, as David alluded to, we can expand those programs if we do get good results. So that's kind of the way it's laid out right now.
Great. Steve Butler wants to know, what is your best option on expanding Saddle Arc resource, strike/depth, or other targets like Ryan Surprise?
Yeah, I think Ryan Surprise, and to be honest, I mean, that's the reason we're drilling it this year. We feel there's good potential there, and maybe in the immediate area, maybe the best potential. So, we feel with even with 1,500 meters, we're obviously not going to be defining any resources, but we certainly think it's going to be a good chance to test that target, to see if it has some size potential and some continuity, see what the grade is like. Results to date shows that, I mean, it's got some nice grade. It could be an underground mining opportunity in the future, but the close proximity to Golden Saddle and Arc, we think it's got some good synergies with that project. So it's got a good ability to add some resources in short order.
And just to add on that, there's a couple other very interesting targets that we RAB drilled last season, which we'll be following up with some of this RAB activity, which hopefully lead to new potentials like Ryan Surprises.
Awesome. Question here that I can answer. Oh my gosh. Hi, do we get a copy of the presentation? Yes, you do. You can find the copy of the presentation in the handout section. It is on your top right-hand corner next to tools. If you click that, you'll be able to download it. Alternatively, if for whatever reason you're not able to download it, we'll be showing you an email at the end, friends@six.com. Reach out to us and we will get that sent your way. Next question here from Larry Rohrer. Cold weather mining. On several occasions, it was mentioned that these sites have recently become more accessible due to warmer weather. What happens if the grand solar minimum turns the weather colder? Real climate change, he says.
I guess, Terry, maybe I'll turn that over to you. My understanding is, the weather is usually a factor into cost, but once you're sort of up and running, you can do it. But Terry certainly has much more expertise in that respect than myself.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you're talking about climate, you're talking about long-term changes. Climate change is an important issue globally, so we certainly recognize that. And again, though, like I said, changes in climate, you're talking longer term things, and I guess not only mining projects, but just about every aspect of society can and will be impacted by climate change. But the mining industry is pretty resilient in coming up with new technologies and so on. So I personally, I don't see that as being a big issue. But I guess time will tell. All projects will have to adjust to the challenges posed by climate change. So that's something we'll be looking at. Hopefully, that's a concern we'll have to deal with. Because we do want to see these projects develop eventually.
Great. I'm conscientious we're coming to the end of time, but we do have a few extra questions. If it's all right with you, are you guys free for an extra 5-10 minutes? Go a little bit in overtime?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here.
Yeah.
All right.
Happy to answer as many questions as we have time for.
I showed up. Sean's here now.
Oh,
perfect. Here we go.
Welcome back, Sean.
And the good thing, too, is I have one for you. This next one, it comes from Sam Toon, and he says, Shawn previously alluded to keeping White Gold an exploration-focused company indefinitely, i.e. not advancing to development or mining internally. Can you expand on this model? What's on the table for Golden Saddle / Vertigo, etc.? Is the preference on 100% sale of the projects to the partners? Is it royalties, JVs, spin-offs, or potentially something else?
Okay, I'll let Dave answer that from the Toronto
Yeah.
perspective. But
Sure, that's a great question, and I think it's a great problem to have. For us, having an asset that I think is, as a standalone, could be economical and could be part of something bigger. So all of those things are possibilities, and are in evaluation between that asset and other assets as a plan forward. Nothing's decided yet, but certainly the opportunity to do something that makes the most sense for shareholders is being explored at all times.
Great. Our next question here comes from Steve Hughes. Hey, Steve. The magnetite looks quite interesting. It appears to be a massive magnetite skarn that is rich in gold mineralization and has associated copper. These skarns can be quite extensive and rich and are reasonably easy to model. Have you inverted the magnetics and visualized the magnetic body in 3D? It could show a clear mag high, possibly linear, if replacing a bed. Food for thought.
Yep, well, I'll answer that. That's exactly what some of them figures I was showing, or if someone showed them. The idea is that, yeah, we did invert the mag, and basically we could actually see the exact shape of this magnetite body. And the idea is that, so we could see that the drill hole that we hit was actually perfectly correlating with that. And so that's why, there's low grade in that drill hole all the way down to 80 meters. And we were still in the magnetite. So, and the resistivity with the chargeability kind of modeled that perfectly also. So yeah, so that's what we're doing. It's a very easy deposit to model because it's magnetite. And the idea is that we've got it modeled now. And that's why we should be able to plug some good drill holes into it because we know exactly where it is. But it looks like it goes to the depths of up to 200 meters there.
Fantastic. I think this was covered, but I'm going to repeat it just in case anyone has missed it. And it's also coming from Mark Solomon, who just became a shareholder this morning. So welcome, Mark. Are you funded up for your 2020 exploration funds?
Yeah, our program is fully funded with additional capital for follow-on work.
Perfect. Question here from Richard Labonte. White Gold has amassed a mind-boggling amount of exploration data and has a great land position. Has the company been approached by any of the artificial intelligence companies wishing to make a deal? And is White Gold open to that idea?
I could speak to that. Like we basically did do a little bit of AI this year with our geochem, and it worked pretty good, but it didn't really, find any brand new targets. Our big development this year was with this Matthias, his work with the structure, and that was really that opened up everybody's eyes. So we're still basically trying to in-house do our work, which is with like the soils and the probe and the RAB drill and XRF and LiDAR. So we've got a good team with Ground Truth, and now that we have Matthias working with us, and then we have another structural guy, Mike Cooley. So it's pretty good. We have some good eyes looking at the prize, and but like everything, we're always learning. So that's the fun part. So, but we did test AI, but I don't think it's quite here, because we have enough expertise in the district to understand at least get a good idea what's going on.
Great. Question here from Victor Zhao. Have you done any stream sediment geochemical survey?
Yep, I'll answer that. So we have done some. Actually, Kinross was the one who did it, did the big run in 2011. And actually, not too many people have been using that data. So we've taken that out, dusted it off. And some of the follow-up grids that we're doing on the JP Ross are specifically on some of these stream geochems that were not followed up back in 2011. So.
Awesome. Jonal Misfi says, what are your sensor techniques? I think he's trying to say sensor techniques, and how detailed are the results? Center?
We use different kind of sensors. We're kind of the tools that we'll use, we go from, actually now we're trying drone LiDAR surveys, but the geophysics that we do, from the mag, you're doing, that's a magnetometer. That's on the ground. But the idea is that we put downhole survey tools down our RAB holes, and that gives us a nice kind of 3D blueprint. It's an oriented picture inside the core, inside the drill hole. And we'll actually take XRF data, that's a laser beam zapper that zaps the powder of the rock when it comes out of the drill hole on 5-foot sections. We could zap that with this, $50,000 machine, laser beam. And it basically, then we get the metal content and we splice that together with the televiewer. That's a visual thing, and it's an oriented picture. Yeah, so that it allows us, using these kind of high-tech little gadgets, streamlines what normally would take 6 weeks. We get the data every night. So that gives the geologist lots of time to think in real time. So it's a fun, like the modern day stuff is really working for us.
Very cool. Angela Publicover says, you mentioned copper and uranium occurrences. Are they promising enough to provide mining potential in the future?
So like on the Titan, that's just like they're low grade copper. Sometimes you get, copper skarns, but whatever this is, like it looks like it smells like a skarn or part of a porphyry system, which is skarns are part of. So whatever it is, but it's not, the grades are not high enough to be economical. It's the gold that we're after. And the uranium is barely smelling, but we see it. And that's what the better assays get low detections. So that's just telling us that, oh yeah, we're probably got an intrusive fluid or source somewhere. So we might be standing on top of the iceberg, like literally. So it's kind of, and the fluids are just coming up the cracks. So these are just clues to help us, with this hunt for gold. Like gold is the main asset we're after there.
Ronald Shore is asking, all-in cost per meter for diamond and for RAB drilling, ?
So the cost for RAB drilling, like it's as low as around basically, depending on if you have all the bells and whistles, but it's roughly all-in cost about $150 a meter. And then you go up to RC, which is a little bit beefier system than the RAB, but it's still basically a chip. That's around $250 a meter. And then you go up to diamond drilling, it's roughly around $400 a meter all in. So that's kind of the step. So that's why we like to hunt with the RAB first and then flesh out the targets and then come in with the diamond drill on the back end.
Great. Question here from John Little. When can investors expect drill results?
What we're going to try to do here is we're going to try to go and drill the Titan with the RAB, some of those flyer targets in June, probably the middle of June. But we're going to poke an RC, which is a dual walled system, on the Titan from a geological point of view and to get some data ahead of the diamond drill. And that's going to be an intact drill. There'll be no questioning that because there's no cross-contamination. So that's going to be done, between the 2nd and 3rd week of June. So that data should be in our hands roughly by the end of July, pretty easy. So we might have data coming out on the Titan, at least from this initial RAB and RC work, probably by the end of July, early August.
Great. Question here coming from Alex, longtime shareholder, first-time caller. What defines success for 2020?
Like 2020, if we go in, like the cool part we're doing there is we've kind of pulled in our horns a little bit. Like on the JP Ross, we're going to be trenching. Like when we trenched the Vertigo last year with a deeper hole, it was like aha moments. So now we're actually going to about 10 other targets like that. And we're going to have some good trenching going in. So we're going to find some interesting new stuff there. So that'll be fun on that front. That's one front. But that's getting it ready to diamond drill it next year. So we should have a bunch of good targets there because we're on the known knowns. Like we're not looking for them. We know where they are. And then the idea is that this Titan is going to come up through the grapevine because, how big does that get? Does that grade hold? Which, it looks like it should. So that'll get a bunch of excitement. But meanwhile, we actually have the Ryan surprise. If we hit there, like there's another big, bonus there that'll come out of the woodwork. And then we still have the Betty and the Hart Mountain stuff that we're working on for preparing for next year's drilling program. So like the thing is right now we're up to the point we're not looking for basically gold anomalies. We kind of know where they are now because of the last 3 years. So now we're going in for the kill shots. So we should have a lot of success in front of us with just even this budget. It'll be, I kind of view it like going hunting with a sniper rifle versus a shotgun. Your shots count. So.
Great. A few more questions here. We have one about the oil price. So the oil price is quite low. Is this good news for mining companies?
I
don't think that. Okay, you jump in, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I think the short answer is yes. When you look to sort of evaluate the economic potential of a deposit or a mining project, there's a number of different factors, and certainly the cost of oil and gas is definitely one of them. But in our context, I think there's been other changes in economic parameters that are even more beneficial to White Gold. Like obviously the price of gold, that's clear. And the price of gold does affect the projects in more than one way. There's the added value of what you're pulling out of the ground, but it does also increase the size of the deposits as it allows you to get bigger pits and take more out of the ground because it becomes economical. And in terms of sort of evaluating the projects in our district, there's been a couple of other changes which have been also very beneficial. The biggest one is this road that's going in that can provide a lot of benefits going forward. And something that people don't always clue into right away, but it's the currency exchanges. Gold is obviously priced in US dollars, as is oil. We're in Canada. We have a Canadian dollar workforce and majority of our costs, capex, etc. Right, so we see gold at whatever it is, around $1,700 US, but it's effectively all-time highs in Canadian dollars. So the macroeconomic effects of some of these changes in the recent years has certainly been beneficial for mining companies in Canada.
Question here from Steve Butler. This one's going to you, Terry. In your time in Timmins, did you become at all familiar with Newmont's Golden Development Project? Believe it to be hosted in higher grade metamorphic terrain, and as such, is there any comparison to any of White Gold's projects?
This could be a short answer, no. With respect to Newmont's project, I'm really not that familiar with it. The striking similarity I see between Yukon and Timmins, though, is that in Timmins you're dealing with about 40 to 50 meters of overburden in a lot of areas, so you're really prospecting with the diamond drill. With our projects in the Yukon, as Shawn said, we're anywhere from like 3 to 8 feet of overburden. So you have a thin veneer, a blanket covering, obviously a lot of mineralization that comes directly to surface. So, we can explore and find things with soil sampling, RAB drilling, and so on, and then bring in the diamond drill. So I think, the Yukon is kind of a unique spot in Canada, I think, especially. It's been unglaciated. It's a fun place to explore, I would say. So, yeah.
Great. This was another COVID-19 question. It comes from Eric Van Dam. He says, what do you think about the COVID-19 delay? When do you think it's going to start?
Well, I think, we touched on that. Our plan is kicked off effectively, and, with all that in consideration, we'll have exploration underway in the coming weeks. And, we put out an update a week ago outlining some of that activity. And as we get into the different projects, there'll be updates to the market to announce, what we're working on.
Yeah, I'll expand on David's answer. I mean, we have a close working relationship with Ground Truth Exploration. They have a lot of their people already in the Yukon, so they don't have to. They're not dealing with the 14-day self-isolation period. Anybody entering Yukon basically has to, from outside, non-residents, has to do a 14-day self-isolation period. So that sets us back a couple of weeks right there. But as I said, Ground Truth have a lot of their workers already in the Yukon, so that enables us to get started with some programs like the soil sampling, some of the geophysics we can get going, next week. Yeah.
Great. Question here from John Lang. Will you be drilling gold spot targets anytime soon?
I'm actually not even sure what gold spot targets
I
are.
think
Gold Spot is they're an AI company.
I think they're working, with some other companies in the Yukon. But not with us.
That's right.
There you go.
Sorry to interrupt there.
Robert Clark wants to know, are you going to update the White Gold resource this year?
No, we won't be. Just because, at least for this year, no new work is planned on the resources themselves. So we won't be.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's just to our point back. At this point, we're looking to sort of find new opportunities for significant expansion potential, which is hunting some of these new targets. The Golden Saddle, the Ryan Surprise being the one that's going to be looked at most closely, but a number of the other new targets along that ridge, so earlier stage type work on those new discoveries.
Arnold Tenney says, you said that the company is not being properly valued in the market. So where do you think the value should be today?
I can tell you where I think it would be, but might get laughed off the platform. But listen, just stepping back to the beginning of the conversation, I think this is a very unique company. There's a lot going for it between its flagship assets, over 1.8 million ounces, based on much lower gold prices. Some of the best strategic partners that you could hope for in terms of the major mining companies who are accessed as a resource for us technically in Agnico and Kinross, the sponsorship of the Power One Group and some of these incredible institutions in Toronto, Eric Sprott. These guys see the vision. I think they obviously see the fact that, especially with Eric Sprott entering now, that the opportunity and the value is much more than we see in the market right now. A Capital actually published some research earlier this year. They had a $2.55 target price based on their analysis. But I think if you take a look at all the parts going on, the people involved, the track records, and compare that to some of the comparables, it shouldn't be hard to sort of come to a conclusion that we have that the value is much more than is being reflected today. And
on a go ahead.
Well, just put it in simple terms, Shawn here, that if you took just the JP Ross Titan out of the white, it would be worth 50 cents. If you took the Betty out of the white, it would be worth 50 cents. If you took the white out of the white, it'd be worth 70 cents. So that's what the whole company, like with all this portfolios, basically they're just paying for ounces in the ground here. But the idea is that we may have, there's quite a few great projects in this that are kind of company makers on their own. So
there's lots of blue sky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think a similar type of question here coming from Jatinder. He wants to know the price to NAV ratio compared to peers.
I think in general, I haven't looked at it in the last couple of weeks, but we've consistently been trading at a discount to our peers based on solely the ounces in the ground and not really accounting much for the other opportunity and the discoveries in the land package.
Another question here from Steve Hughes. He says, one of the biggest issues with working in the north is dealing with winter. It's difficult for a junior to maintain upward momentum on their stock price if news flow is limited. Is it possible to work year-round at this point, or is that further down the road after the company defines a sizable resource?
Maybe I'll touch on part of that, and then I'll turn over to the guys to talk about the work. And I think this ties into the previous question about the current valuation relative to where we think it should be. We are coming out of our quiet season, and part of that is, a seasonal trend downwards, which I think, hopefully we're now out of as we're getting into the work. In terms of being able to work, there can be stuff done, but I'll turn over to the guys to what we can do and why why sometimes we choose not to, just for other reasons.
Like, I'll jump in that when we run into for winter months, So like our real working months is, you could start, the creeks are running from about the end of April, beginning of May until about the third week of September. So that's when you could diamond drill because you need water. But what we learned with the coffee discovery was with RC, they could actually drill year round as long as you could drive to the drill, because that's the daylight up in the Yukon, slows you for the helicopter access. So with the RAB, we could actually drill, we've extended our season. So now if we wanted to drill in, on the coffee, they drilled in February all the way till the end of November. So that's how they were able to get so many holes quick. But you can have water trucks, and that's what they've done there for diamond drills. So if they want to drill in the wintertime. So there is ways to expand it, but we're always just trying to watch the dollar at the same time. So it gets more expensive if you drill like later or earlier in the season or too late in the season. So, but for now, that's kind of the RABs and RCs have really helped our drilling situation in the Yukon from at least extending the season quite a bit.
Okay, folks, we've made it. This is our final question here. We're going to ask this question, and then we're going to move on to the final word from the team. A big thank you to everyone who attended. We had over 300 folks in the room with us today. And if we didn't get a chance to get to your question, please send us an email, and we'll make sure that it gets to Dave and the rest of the White Gold team, and we will get you your answer. Final question here from Jatinder. What are the company milestones for 2020 and 2021? What can we expect?
I think we've covered,
Dave?
Yeah, listen, I think, we've covered a lot of that hopefully in our talk, but just as a summary, if you look at our exploration plan for the year and where we're focused, we're looking to get some more information and expand the prospectivity of our Ryan Surprise target, which we've had some great success on in 2018 and 2019, and to show that could be a meaningful ounce adder to our Golden Saddle deposit, being in such close proximity to that, and just about 10 kilometers from our BG deposit, which we bought in 2019, which is another 230,000 ounces. And we're very exciting results from our Titan discovery last year. We're going to be doing the first diamond drilling ever on that target, so looking to see that and preparing some of our earlier stage properties for work in the future. The Betty is something that people have had their eyes on for many years now, and having had such good success in 2018. Some of these other targets, the Bonanza, which is right in the heart of the prolific Klondike placer district, that has not seen any drilling in the area we're looking to, but based on the structural interpretation, we're very optimistic, and getting a few of our other targets ready for similar type exploration work in 2021.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for all of your time. Big thank you to our presenters today. Big thank you to the 300 folks in the chat. Again, if you weren't able to get your question answered, please send it at friends@six.com. We will make sure it gets answered. And yeah, I'll throw it back to you folks. Dave, you can take the final word.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody again for their interest in White Gold. Hopefully you have a better understanding now why we're viewed as such a unique company and a unique opportunity for a generational type perspective in such a great jurisdiction as Canada. We're thrilled to be starting what we're expecting to be an exciting season. Sorry for any of these technical problems during the presentation. We'll have all this information up on our website, along with a number of other pieces of informative material. And throughout the season, we will be communicating regularly in terms of our progress and looking to produce a lot more visual, digital type assets that really sort of help our investor community understand our activities in this prolific emerging district. And we're very excited, and timing is excellent for this type of a platform as we're getting underway with our 2020 program.
Great. Thank you, everyone, and have a good, safe rest of your day.
Likewise. Thank you, Bianca.
Take care.